Alrighty, welcome back to Fusion Friday. Today what we're going to do is we're going to explore another one of the studies in the simulation workspace called the shape optimization study. This is really useful because say if you have an object like this, like some sort of little latch, a pinned latch thing that has some load requirements, some of this object is going to need to have solid material in order to carry that load. However, not the entire object is going to need to have solid material filled in. So what the shape optimization study is good for, it's finding those spots in the material where the load path does not actually affect it. So you can trim down the shape to avoid saving materials. So we're going to learn how to do that today. So once you have the shape designed out that you want to do, we are going to create a new simulation. Okay, so we'll go to the simulation workspace. And this time we are going to create a shaped optimization study. So we'll go ahead and create it. Similar to the static studies, we're going to want to assign a material. I am going to go ahead and assign the material to be aluminum 6061. So we'll go ahead and do that, press OK. And now I want to add some constraints. I'm only going to actually add one constraint. I'm just going to create this a little fixed joint around this little hollow tube. So I'm going to create a fixed joint around that, press OK. And now I'm going to give it a load condition. Under my load, I'm going to give it a structural load. And I'm just going to click on the inner diameter of both of these little holes here. Okay, and I want to give that a 1,000 Newton force, and I just want to kind of rotate it so that it goes 45 degrees down. That looks pretty good. So I'll click OK. So the last thing we want to do is we actually want to reduce the mesh size. So how these simulations work is it creates a bunch of tiny triangles in your shape called a mesh. So we'll go ahead and reveal that, and we see all those tiny little triangles, right? It performs a series of calculations on these little triangles, but we actually want to make this slightly smaller. So if we click that little mesh settings, we want to create this mesh to be just slightly smaller. So that way it creates a more refined model. So we should be all set now. And now if we click on solve, we should be good to go. All right. Now that we've solved our study, we can go ahead and click close. And now we see the areas where the load path would critically affect our shape. So we see that on this edge and the bottom edge is where it would feel the force of this 1,000 Newton force that we have on it. And what we want to do is we can adjust the target size so we can see, all right, these are the really critical areas. But what I want to do is I want to adjust it so I can see where they kind of connect. And what you'll see, there's none of the load that's being applied to this general area, this general area, this general area, or up here. So I can go ahead and remove that. So what I want to actually do is I want to bring that mesh that we were looking at into my design model. So if I go up here and I click promote, I can add the mesh object to, and I just want to change this to my design workspace. So now you see we kind of have that mesh into our design space. And then what we could do is we can create a new sketch, and we could just create shapes that cut out that empty space. So I'm going to go in and just kind of create some lines. And I just want to get it so that anywhere that this mesh is affected is kind of gone. Okay. Now that I've got these kind of holes and pockets that I want to get rid of, I'm going to actually just use the auto constrain feature because I want these shapes to stay exactly as they are. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some constraints, let Fusion lock it in for me. We'll go ahead and lock that in place, and then we could just go ahead and extrude out all of those little pieces that we don't need. We could just cut them away. Okay, so we want to go ahead and give our shape some nice little fillets. Okay, to do this, we could actually just use the fillet rule. So what we'll do is under modify, we will create a fillet, and instead of just a regular fillet, we can do the fillet rule option. This makes it a lot nicer because if we just select this feature, we can give it a radius of 2 millimeters, and then we want to set it to fillets only, and you'll see it automatically fills in all of those little areas with the fillet that we want. And we'll click OK. And now we have a nice little part that we could go and manufacture that's actually optimized to handle the load conditions that we need. And we can check this, how much mass we've actually lost, if we assign our physical material to be this aluminum 6061. And we could go back in time a little bit. So before we added this feature, if we click on our body, check on our properties, you see that our mass is about 404.37 grams. And now after this feature, we can right click on our body, go to properties. Now we see we've shaved off about 100 grams off of our part, which is great. So we've gone and saved about 100 grams of aluminum just by using the shape optimization study on our part, and it will still be able to effectively carry the load that it's designed for. So that's a little bit how you would use the shape optimization feature in Fusion 360.